Hello, everyone. Welcome to my Summer of 2025 review, where we look back at all the news and TV, movies, and gaming I missed during the summer of 2025.
Hey everyone, hope everyone's doing good. Hope you all are doing happy and doing blessed and just doing overall safe. So, as you know, it's now beginning to get fall. Over the summer, I could not really do a whole lot of stories I wanted to do. I had to make some tough choices. And that's really what this Geek Report is going to be about. Basically, this is going to be my summer of 2025 review. We're going to talk about news stories that I saw that did kind of pique my interest, but not enough for me to report on them at the time. Or stories that happened when I took my month-long break in September. We're going to talk about these stories, look at these stories, and I'll give you just my overall opinions on them. So ladies and gentlemen, this here is my summer of 2025 review. I hope you like it. Check it out. And at the end of the video, we'll talk about what I thought overall about the summer of 2025 in geek news.
Our first segment tonight is our movie and TV news segment.
So, starting off this summer of 2025 review, let's talk about something that dropped over the summer in our movie and TV news. And let me say that honestly, I am very excited for this. Okay? I'm extremely excited for this. Because I am a child of the 80s, okay? I grew up watching shows like Knight Rider, Airwolf, The $6 Million Man, The $6 Million Woman. I grew up watching the original MacGyver, The A-Team, the original Battlestar Galactica. These are shows that are ingrained in me, okay? Where you would come home from school, do your homework, whatever that may be in the 80s, and then sit down in front of the TV with your family and watch some great programming. It ain't like today. You know, back then they had appointment TV. Nowadays they have anytime TV. Okay? But I'm kind of getting off on sidetrack here. So, over the summer we got some news that the creators of Cobra Kai are going to do a Knight Rider movie. And what's really interesting about this is, based on what we're hearing, this Knight Rider movie could become a shared universe between Knight Rider, Airwolf, and the $6 Billion Man. Their adaptation of the $6 Million Man. And this is coming from Screen Rant right here. And it says, the Cobra Kai creators are trying it again with another 1980s title. And they are reportedly developing a movie of the 42-year-old David Hasselhoff cult classic TV show Knight Rider. I absolutely loved the original Knight Rider, okay? The original Knight Rider was so cool. Now, they've tried to bring it back a couple of times. They had Knight Rider 2000, and then they had the show that came on a couple of years ago, and nothing really took off. Not really, okay? And it says here that it's been 42 years since Hasselhoff drove to stardom on TV Knight Rider. And the cult classic show is at last getting a movie adaptation with the Cobra Kai's John Hurwitz, Hayden Schlossberg, and Josh Harrell set to produce for Universal. They will team up on the script. And keeps on going down here and says it ran from 82 to 86. Then we had Knight Rider 2010, which was released in 91 and 94. And then we had the 2008 Knight Rider. Talk of a Knight Rider reboot has cropped up and off for past 15 years. There were names attached to it like Chris Pratt and Danny McBride, so forth and so forth. You know, there's been rumors going around about it for a long time. But nothing really materialized, okay? And then Hasselhoff himself revealed in 2017 that he and the Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn had discussed making a Knight Rider movie. That same year, Hasselhoff said he had a conversation with Robert Rodriguez about making a Logan-style Michael Knight send-off film. Neither happened. I wonder why. And it keeps on going down here. You know, it's evident that getting a Knight Rider movie off the ground has been easier said than done. Now, if you move over to Cosmic Book News, you get this. that the Knight Rider movie is rumored to launch an Airwolf in the $6 billion man shared universe. Okay. So you go on down here and it says the upcoming Knight Rider movie from the Cobra Kai creators may be more than just a reboot, with new rumors suggesting it could lead to a shared universe that includes Airwolf and the $6 billion man. So let me just say this right now. This is still only rumor only, okay? Continuing on, it said that on a podcast, it's claimed that Universal is developing a plan that connects multiple classic 80s properties. According to the rumor, the studio is starting with the Knight Rider movie before expanding into projects involving Airwolf and the $6 billion man. And of course, they must keep the Airwolf theme music. I love the Airwolf theme music myself. I have no problem with it. Or I would love if they were somehow able to keep the $6 billion man's. Well, back then it was called the $6 million man. But that music he would do every time he would use his powers. Or the original theme song to Knight Rider. The idea reportedly began during the writers and directors strikes. Now with Cobra Kai Rap, the creative team is said to be pushing the concept forward, which I hope they do. It says here, instead of a traditional theatrical run, the project may go directly to streaming. I hope at least Knight Rider comes to theaters, okay? If they're going to do a Knight Rider movie, okay, that's supposed to lead into a show, that's supposed to lead into a shared universe, I hope at least the Knight Rider movie goes to theaters, okay? Continuing on, it says the plan would see the Knight Rider film debut on Peacock in the U.S., and then a release is expected till early 2027. I don't really care. They could push it back another year. Let them do this right, okay? Really let them do this right, okay? It says, if the film performs well, the rumor suggests it could lead to a 10-episode series, eventually spinning off into Airwolf and the $6 billion man. These shows would then build towards a crossover movie, which I completely agree with. Start with baby steps. Start with a Knight Rider movie that leads to a Knight Rider show that allows you to introduce Airwolf, and then that leads to an Airwolf show. And maybe a Airwolf movie. And then somewhere along the way in the Airwolf movie, you get introduced to the $6 billion man. And then that, do it. Don't sit there and say, okay, we're going to do all these shows, and then one fail and brings down all the others. Do it in baby steps, okay? So that way, if something does go wrong, okay, then you're not obligated to do this one and this one, okay? And it talks about an AI storyline and shared technology and all that. I really don't know how I feel about that. Okay, I get AI is like the big bad today in today's world. I completely understand that. But really, I don't know how I feel about AI being the overall bad guy. Okay, that would seem too much like Skynet or something. Okay, and it would just seem like an easy villain. I think if you're going to have a bad guy, quote unquote bad guy, okay, and I'm going to move this over a little bit, but if you're going to have a quote unquote bad guy, first off, I think it would have to be an organization. I'm not completely against AI being a part of it, but I think if they were to do an AI, it would have to bring back Carr. Alright? Or at the very least, in the Knight Rider movie, bring back Carr and Goliath. Okay? That I could see. I just am not sure about having an AI be the complete bad guy. Okay? I can see like AI being a tool of some organization or something along those lines. But if you made the AI the big bad guy of Kit, Airwolf, and the $6 billion man, I think it would make it seem too much like Terminator. Okay? And I get that AI right now we're kind of in this gray area where it comes to AI. Okay? But to make them like the big bad guy of all three of these, no. Okay? I'm just not down with that. Okay. Now, if they want to have like an organization, okay, that was using AI can see that. Okay. And they could use the AI in, say, Kit's counter called Car. If you remember back in the old series, there was Kit and there was Car that was like a murderous car, And then in Airwolf, you had Airwolf 2, which was flown by this crazy pilot who was shot down by the original Airwolf. Okay? And I seem to remember in the $6 million movies, there was also a bionic bad guy, if I remember correctly, who had bionics that was stolen from the $6 million man and $6 million woman. So, yeah, like, if some organization was using AI as a weapon, I could see that organization being the big bad guy versus Kit, Airwolf, and the $6 billion man. But don't sit there and make it the big bad guy being AI. Okay? I just don't see it. Okay? Moving on, it says here that the reason they chose AI was because it was becoming increasingly in the spotlight and all that stuff. It's just like I said, I just don't see AI being the big bad guy. You know what I'm saying? I just can't see it. All right. Now, if it's some type of tool, fine. Okay. But just having them be the big bad guy, no, I can't. I can't really see that. Going on, it says about what car will serve as a new kit. A couple have come up, including the Tesla Roadster and the Dodge Charger EV, are both being considered, with the final choice depending on sponsorship deals. I don't know about that. I mean, let's go over here and check out the Dodge Charger. So this here is the Dodge Charger. Now, I could see this working. Okay, I really could see this working out. All right, have it black, have the the red going back and forth, all that. Okay, I could really see a Dodge Charger being the next kit. Now, this here is the Tesla Roadster. I nothing against Elon. I just don't see this car being kit. Okay? Not that it couldn't be kit if they did it right. It's just, when you look at the two, side by side, really. Alright? And you know what? I'm going to get those two beside each other. I mean, really. Which car would you rather see as kit? As the reincarnation of kit? Could you see a Tesla or a Dodge Charger? Me personally, I would rather see the Dodge Charger. I'll just be honest with you. I would rather see a Dodge Charger being kit than a Tesla Roadster. Okay? Because nothing against Elon. Okay? I'm pretty sure the Roadster looks and drives cool and all that stuff. But really, when you look at the two, a Dodge Charger seems more like a car that would be used by Michael Knight and Kit than a Tesla Roadster. Okay? I mean, it's just that simple. Nothing against Tesla, but I see more the Dodge Charger being a kit car than I do a Tesla Roadster. But going back to this, it says here, Universal has long struggled to revive its 80s action brands into a shared universe. Could be a way to finally make them resonate with modern audiences. And that is correct, okay? If they did it right, if they did not rush it, that's a big problem that's happening with all these connected universes, is they try to rush it, okay? A connected universe, if we learned anything from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a connected universe takes time to build, takes time to get going, okay? You don't just expect it instantly, okay? You go for the long haul, but you do it step by step, just like baking a cake. You put this in, you heat it, done, okay? You don't sit there and try to rush it. And a lot of these companies have tried to rush things. All right, because they want that money, because they need that money. But when you're trying to make a connected universe, if even one thing is out of whack, then it ain't going to work. Okay, if even one thing is out of sync or anything like that, it ain't going to work. Okay, so really, they could do it, and it could resonate with audiences, but only if they do it right and take their time. Okay. Let me finish off with this. First off, I love this news, okay? Even if it's just a Knight Rider, even if we ain't getting a 80s shared universe, I love the news because I love Knight Rider. I love the original Knight Rider. The 2008 Knight Rider I started to like, but then they got kind of crazy with it. So I'm hoping that they don't do that. That they don't get crazy with it. Okay. But look, let's say for a moment that this is true. That this is going to lead into a shared universe with Airwolf and the $6 billion man. Okay. That opens up so many possibilities. That really does open up so many possibilities. Could you imagine a modern take on the A-Team? Could you imagine a modern take on the $6 billion woman? Okay. Could you imagine, a modern take on some of these other classic 80s properties out there? I mean, another classic 80s property would be Cagney Lacey. That would be another one that could totally work out. I mean, really? They can even do MacGyver. And I know that it was a MacGyver reboot a while back, but they could do one that has Richard Dean Anderson in it, okay? But they can't rush this, okay? We're kind of getting ahead of ourselves for a minute here. Really, some final thoughts on this are this. First off, they got to take their time, okay? Don't sit there and try to rush these guys. Don't sit there and try to rush the story. Take your time, tell your story, build things up. Secondly, choose the right vehicle for Airwolf and Knight Rider. Okay? I hope you choose the Dodge Charger EV. But choose a vehicle that is very cool looking and screams kit. Okay? Don't just choose a vehicle because, you got a cheaper price on this. Choose a vehicle that screams kit. Heck, if you want a Tesla Roadster, okay, sit there and have Elon develop and build a new type of Tesla Roadster that screams Knight Rider. Okay? I mean, could you imagine if they went to Elon and said, hey, look, we're willing to do the Tesla Roadster for the new Knight Rider movie, but the current design we're not happy with. Design something new for Knight Rider. And then have them put it on Knight Rider, whether it be the movie or TV show, and basically, have it premiere on that show. It would be a boon for the show, and it would be a boon for Tesla. Okay? I mean, so Elon could sit there and say, hey, I developed this new Tesla Roadster. We're calling it the Knight Rider version Tesla. It's going to be shown on the new Knight Rider movie and the Knight Rider TV show. And you can start your order soon. I mean, really, take your time. Choose the right vehicles. Okay? And don't make AI the big bad. Okay? Make AI just another tool of some organization. Okay? I mean, in Knight Rider, you had the Knight organization that basically built Knight Rider and recruited Michael Knight to be its driver. Alright? If you're talking about the Bionic Man, then you're talking about the OSI, who went and rebuilt Steve Austin to become the Bionic Man, and eventually did it to the Bionic Woman. Okay? And finally, Airwolf was built by an organization called Firm, which was part of an intelligence agency. Okay? So you could have any one of these organizations in the new Knight Rider series, or in the new Knight Rider movie, or however you want to do it. Okay? Another thing is, I do think you need to connect the new series, the new movies, to the original ones. The easiest way to do this would be to have David Hasselhoff on as Knight Rider. Have him on there as some capacity. Now, I'm not saying he should be driving the car, because I know that he's getting on up there in age, okay? Nothing against that, okay? I just know that he probably couldn't do all the action and stuff. But definitely have him be part of the organization. Okay? Have him be the one to choose the driver, to choose the car, to take over as part of this organization within the Knight organization that runs Knight Rider, that keeps it up and all that stuff. Or maybe have it where Knight Rider was sent over to the OSI, which builds the Bionic Man, and have OSI get control over Airwolf and basically have everything under the OSI. Okay, which in the Bionic universe is Office of Scientific Intelligence. Okay, so really any one of these organizations could be in there, and I do think that having them connected to the original series is a big one. Okay, I mean, Knight Rider will probably be the easiest to do. Airwolf, most of the original actors are dead. So it would have to be through some familial thing. Like the granddaughter of Hawk or Dominique or something. Okay. As for the $6 billion man, I should say. I think Steve Austin is still alive, but I think he's getting on up there in age. So I would definitely see that as being a familiar one as well. Okay. So in closing, I'm really am excited for this, but I don't want to get my hopes up because you know how they are. Okay, we all know how they are. They always put their nonsense in this, and I really don't want them to do that with Knight Rider or any of this stuff. Okay, but I do think that if they do this right, if they give us a good show with Knight Rider, that is just a 80s show, okay, that ain't too political, that ain't full of this nonsense, and just let the Cobra Kai people cook, like they did with Karate Kid, then I think we could get the start of something really spectacular that will not only be a throwback to people like me who watched these movies in the 80s and 90s, who watched these shows in the 80s and 90s, but could bring in a whole new generation of people who love these shows, and who knows, perhaps maybe we could get back to some type of appointment TV instead of TV anytime, anywhere.
Continuing on with this week's TV and movie news segment.
Now, Wolfenstein started way back in the 90s, but more recently it has become another first-person shooter that is basically an alternative history world where the bad guys from World War II won. Okay? And this here is the announcement for it, and this is over on the Wrap. And it says Wolfenstein TV series in the works at Amazon MGM Studios, which means that it will fall into the same pattern as Fallout and become a TV series over on Amazon Prime. Okay? And it goes down here and says a TV adaptation of the video game franchise Wolfenstein is in the works at Amazon. The series will be executive produced by Kilter Films' Jonathan Nolan, Lisa Joy, and Athena Wickman. Creator and writer Patrick Somerville via his chaoticgood.tv production banner. There are no plot details. And it says here that the video game franchise centers on World War II soldier William B.J. Blazkowicz, who goes behind enemy lines to fight them and discovers their attempts to harness supernatural and occult forces to win the war. So that's the first couple of games. But more recently, it has become a alternative history game where the bad guys won World War II and he's kind of trying to kickstart a resistance. Okay. And it says here, about the history from 1984 to 1992, the more recent Wolfenstein Cyberpilot, a film adaptation of the franchise was previously announced in 2012, though it never ended up moving forward. Okay, so they're taking these games and they're going to make a series around them. Okay. Now then, I'm going to assume that they are going to go for the more recent games, which was Wolfenstein The New Order, Wolfenstein The New Colossus. I don't know if they would go all the way to Wolfenstein Cyberpilot or the other game, Wolfenstein Youngblood, but I don't think they would go that far. Okay? Now, they could go with Youngblood, okay? And I really hope they don't. Youngblood was not very well received. I hope they stick to, like, Wolfenstein The New Order, Wolfenstein The New Colossus. And I hope they really stop right there in terms of the storyline. Okay? Now, just a few things I want to talk about. So, first off, you've got to find the right actor to play William Blazkowicz. Okay? You've got to find someone who's hardcore, who basically is the alpha male. Because in the games, William Blazkowicz, BJ Blazkowicz, is an alpha male who kicks butt and takes names. Okay? And if you want to see what that kind of person is like, just watch 80s movies. That's really what this is going to probably end up being. Some type of throwback to 80s action shows, okay? Where you have the main character is this super alpha male who just goes around kicking butt, taking names, and getting all the ladies, okay? Secondly, don't try and dumb this down. The Wolfenstein games are known for their gratuitous blood, their gratuitous violence. Okay? Don't try and tone that down. Okay? If you try and sit there and tone that down, then no one's going to watch this. Okay? No one will watch it. Fallout, they didn't tone down the themes in Fallout. Don't do it with this game. And I know it's going to be a lot harder to do because some of the themes in this game are going to be really intense. Okay? But don't tone down the violence. What made the games good is what I'm saying. Don't tone down what made the games good. Was the story, the violence, the action, all that. Okay? Finally, I would suggest to them that they keep it right after the new Colossus storyline. Okay? Because after the new Colossus, there's like a 20-year gap between the new Colossus and Youngblood. Okay? Tell the story of what happens in those 20 years. Okay? The first season should be full of action and everything, but it should set the stage for what comes in the ensuing next seasons. Okay? And like I've said before, one of the few things a TV series that's an adaptation of a video game should do is add to the video games. Okay? It is literally add to the video games. Don't try and retell these stories, but add to them. And honestly, Wolfenstein would be very easy to do because there is that 20-year gap between the new Colossus and Youngblood. Okay? What my main fear about this series is that they'll try and do Youngblood. Okay? After the Youngblood game ended. They'll try to do Youngblood or try to retell one of the games. Okay? We already know the stories of these games. Okay? Don't try and retell them. Add to the games. Don't try and retell the games over. But the thing about Youngblood is I did not like Youngblood. Okay? I'll just be honest with you. The whole like dual way they got everything set up, I just didn't jive with me. Okay? Now that don't mean that it would be bad as a TV series, that these characters would be bad as a TV series. But I think that you really need to set it in that 20-year time frame between the New Colossus and Youngblood. That way you add not only to what happens in the New Colossus, but you also possibly add to what happens in Wolfenstein Youngblood. Okay? So yeah, I really do think that you need to add it to that 20-year gap. Okay? Like, really tell that story of how we got from the New Colossus, how it ended, to Youngblood and how it began. Okay, really tell that story. And I think there is a story there to tell. Okay, but yeah, they are doing a Wolfenstein TV series. I'm going to assume that it is going to take place in the New Blood, the New Colossus, the New Order story time frame. Okay, that's going to take place in those time frames and not from the 90s. Okay. That's my assumption right now, is because more people remember the New Order, the New Colossus, Youngblood, than they do Castle Wolfenstein, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, etc., etc. Okay, so that's what I'm assuming, is that they're going to have it take place in the newer alternate history timeline of it. I just really hope that, first off, they find the right actor for it. Okay, someone who is like an alpha male, but can crack a joke and just kick butt and look good kicking butt. One of these guys who, beats up all the bad guys, saves all the good guys, and gets the woman. Okay, one of those type of guys. Secondly, that they add to the game. They don't try and retell the game over again. They add to the game by telling what happens outside of the game in some way, shape, or form. And I think the best way to do that will be to set this between the New Colossus and Youngblood, because there's like a 20-year gap in between those two games. Okay. And finally, I know that there is a lot of stuff going on that would make it hard for it to be on a TV series. Wolfenstein is known for its gratuitous violence, for buckets of blood, okay, and other imagery, okay. But this is the studio that brought us Man in the High Castle. If they can do that, they can bring us Wolfenstein Youngblood. Or not Wolfenstein Youngblood, but they can bring us a Wolfenstein that is what we know the games to be. Violent, gory, hardcore. Don't try to, make these games soft, or this show soft. Don't try and make this show soft. Okay? Go into what made these games such a draw to people. Okay? Don't be scared of it. Alright? And really try to go into what made these games so good. Okay? But yeah, they are doing a Wolfenstein series over on Amazon. I'm assuming it's going to take place in the New Order, the New Colossus, Youngblood time frame. That alternate history world where the bad guys from World War II won. I'm assuming that because more people probably remember those games than they do the older games from the 90s. Okay. So I'm assuming that's going to happen, that it's going to take place in the New Order, the New Colossus time frame. Until I see a trailer, I really don't know what I'm going to think of this. Alright, but I do think it does show a larger issue going on in Hollywood right now.
Continuing on with this week's TV and movie news segment.
Now, this past summer, there was another big video game series that was announced to have an adaptation. Now, this one has had an adaptation, a movie adaptation done before. And to be honest, I didn't really like it. And of course, I'm talking about the one and the only Assassin's Creed. But now we're getting a live-action TV series. And it's being done over by Netflix. And this is coming from the Hollywood Reporter. And it says, it's been nearly 5 years in the making, but the live-action Assassin's Creed series at Netflix is finally greenlit. With Roberto Patino and David Weiner as creators, showrunners, and executive producers. The blockbuster Assassin's Creed gaming franchise from Ubisoft first launched in 2007. The games have gone on to sell more than 230 million copies worldwide. It jumped from consoles to the big screen via 20th Century Fox. The movie version made 204 million. I'll be honest with you, I did not enjoy the movie adaptation of Assassin's Creed. It says here is a high-octane thriller centered on a secret war between two shadowy factions. One set on determining mankind's future through control and manipulation, while the other fights to preserve free will. The series follows its characters across pivotal historical events as they battle to shape history's destiny. Or humanity's destiny, I should say. Okay, that tagline right there. I'm going to read it again. Where it says, Assassin's Creed is a high-octane thriller centered on a secret war between two shadowy factions. One set on determining mankind's future through control and manipulation, while the other fights to preserve free will. The series follows its characters across pivotal historical events as they battle to shape humanity's destiny. So first off, that tells us a lot right there. First off, we are going to get the Templars back and we are going to get the Assassins back. Okay, so they are still going to keep the two factions from the game. Secondly, they're going to keep their motivations. You know, throughout the game series, the Templars have always tried to control humanity. You know, they believe that only certain people should rule humanity. Whereas the Assassins have always believed in free will. Have always believed in the power of choice. Okay? That one's destiny is not predetermined. Okay? And it keeps on going on and says, the series will follow its characters across pivotal historical events as they battle to shape humanity's destiny. Now, this could mean a number of things. First off, we could be getting the Animus back. Okay? We could be getting the Animus back. And if you don't know what the Animus was, maybe you've never played an Assassin's Creed game. The Animus was this device that basically could analyze your DNA and allow you to live the life of your ancestors by analyzing your blood. And by doing so, it allowed the Assassins and the Templars to learn key information about certain ancestors from the Assassins and the Templars. Okay, so basically the Animus was this giant computer that basically read your DNA and said, okay, this is your ancestor, and basically allowed you through VR or some type of hyper-realistic simulation to live that person's life and to glean information about that person's life, secrets about that person's life, etc., etc. Okay? So we could be getting the Animus back. Okay? Or this series could be where it tells the battle of the Templars and the Assassins throughout history. Okay, where we're not getting the Animus back as we know it in the games, but instead what we're getting is this battle throughout history between the Assassins and the Templars. Okay, and if they do that, they'll probably focus on one family. Okay, because I don't see them jumping from one family to another family to another family, you know, in this battle throughout history. Okay? Because it says it right here. It says, the series follow its characters across pivotal historical events as they battle to shape humanity's destiny. So, that right there tells me that we're going to be focusing on one family. One family, okay? Now, does that necessarily mean that there will be Assassins? No. They could be Templars. And then somewhere along the way, they become Assassins. Or vice versa. Okay? But I do believe that they will focus on the Assassins. Okay? I believe we'll have one family that they'll focus on. And if they do bring the Animus back, then maybe they'll have a modern day component as well. Okay? So let me just say this. Okay? Out of all the games, really, that I've played recently, Assassin's Creed has the most potential for a movie. Okay? And even a TV series. And that's what this is said to be, a TV series. Okay? That's what this is said to be, a TV series. So, I'm all down for this, but I got to know how they're going to do it. Are they going to bring the Animus back? We know that they're already going to be bringing back the Templars and the Assassins. We know that it's going to focus on key points throughout human history as these two shadowy organizations fight for the future of mankind. Whether it be the Templars' need for control or the Assassins' fight for free will. We know that that battle is still going on. The question is, how will it go on? Will we be seeing one family throughout history fighting over and over again, trying to preserve free will? Or are we going to see one person going into the Animus and living the life of these ancestors of his? I personally think they should do it. They should set it up to where it's one family, but each season focuses on a different member of that family at a different pivotal point in history. Now, we've already had the building of the pyramids. We've already had the American Revolution. We've had so many pivotal moments in history shown to us through the games. But there are so many others that could be shown in this series. And what I'm begging and pleading with them is, please don't retell the games. Okay? Add to the games. Okay? The games, at least the first couple, from Assassin's Creed 1 to 3, focused on one character living these lives of his ancestors. Okay? Through the Animus. I'm not saying do that. What I am saying is, have another family who's also assassins, but instead of having them live it through the Animus, show different ancestors of who this person will be. Have the first series, the first episode of the first series be in the modern day where this guy is reading the journals of his ancestors and then flashes back to his ancestors as they fight to preserve free will. Okay? And then, when eventually, the show does end, however it ends, have it come to the modern day where now he has to take up the fight against the Templars in the modern day. Okay? I think Assassin's Creed has a very good potential of being a great TV series. And I think the fact that it's happening at Netflix, which has done Castlevania, which has done Cyberpunk Edge Runners, and it's going to be doing Splinter Cell Death Watch, I think is really cool. Okay? I really do think so. Because Netflix has been kind of hitting it out of the park here lately with these adaptations. Here's my problem. Okay? Earlier I mentioned that I think that there's something going on in Hollywood where they're doing all these video game adaptations. The ones that come to mind already, we've got Wolfenstein, we've got Call of Duty, we have Legend of Zelda. I know they're doing a Mass Effect. We've had Fallout. Okay, I know God of War is happening. I'm not sure if that's going to be a movie or TV series. And now we got another Assassin's Creed going on. I think Hollywood is in desperation mode. Okay, I think what they're seeing is they're seeing these video games have these huge fan bases. Okay, and they want to bring those fan bases over into the theaters. Okay, but as soon as they get their hands on these popular franchises, they try to twist them and change them and make them more friendly and all this other nonsense, and it doesn't happen. Just look at the Halo TV series, okay? While it's getting new life over on Netflix, in the beginning, Halo TV series was Halo in name only. They didn't follow the lore. They completely changed the characters, including the main character, Master Chief. And they basically retold the story of the first two games. Okay? They did nothing to add to the game series in total. Okay? Even they said that they were not going to follow the lore of the games. And if they do that here, it's going to be the same thing. No one's going to watch it. Because when we watch an Assassin's Creed game, when we watch a Castlevania movie, when we watch Splinter Cell, we expect the lore that we know from the games to transfer over into the movies and TV series. Okay? And I hope that does not happen here. But I'm being pessimistic because I've seen it happen time and time again. Okay? But I think this is a larger symptom of Hollywood desperation. Okay? This is a symptom of Hollywood desperation because for so long they have catered to these people out there who, for all intents and purposes, were not showing up to theaters. I mean, for the past couple of years now, they have catered to these people who said, if you do this, we'll show up. But they never showed up. And now, because they did certain things, they have pushed off the regular movie audience. The regular TV show audience. Okay? And now Hollywood's kind of in a rut and they're kind of in trouble because they put all their chips into one bag with doing certain things. And now the regular TV audience is like saying, yo, no, we don't trust y'all anymore. We're out. And now they're trying to find new fan bases to bring in. But what I'm worried is that they're still going to make the same mistakes. They're still going to try to water down stuff. They're still going to try to put A, B, C, and D in this stuff. And I don't want them to do that. Okay, I want Assassin's Creed. You know, I loved the Castlevania, the anime series. I've not seen Cyberpunk. I've not seen Splinter Cell. But I don't want them to water this stuff down and try to make it family friendly. I want them to do a series that adds to Assassin's Creed, that added to Castlevania, that adds to Splinter Cell. Not something that goes on in some alternate universe like Halo the TV series did. But anyway, that's my thinking on that. That really Hollywood is desperate for fan bases, and so they're turning to video games. And another video game they're turning to is Assassin's Creed. You know, I am not going to make a real estimation until I see some type of trailer. And I honestly don't expect to see a trailer this year. I'll probably see one next year. Alright. I really do have faith in Netflix because they did Cobra Kai right. Okay? I mean, Cobra Kai started over on YouTube and then came to Netflix, and they really did do it right. Now, this is not being made by the same people, but I do have faith that Netflix will be doing Assassin's Creed right. Okay, and I'm hoping they've gotten the right people behind it. What I'm worried about is them trying to water it down and still cater to these people who ain't going to show up to watch this. Cater to the people who have never played an Assassin's Creed game, don't want to play an Assassin's Creed game, just want their nonsense be put into every single TV show and movie. I don't want that. I want an Assassin's Creed TV series that adds to the games instead of trying to add to itself. Because it is an Assassin's Creed TV series, and it should be adding to the games instead of trying to go off and do its own thing.
Continuing on with this week's TV and movie news segment.
So I want to talk about one final thing from this past summer. And that is the trailer for the upcoming full feature film, The Mandalorian and Grogu. Now, this was supposed to be The Mandalorian Season 4. But they want to come back to theaters, so they decided to turn Season 4 of The Mandalorian into a full-length feature film. Okay? Now, first off, I see a problem with that, in that how are you going to take 13 one-hour episodes and condense all that down into a 2-hour movie? Alright? Secondly, I firmly believe that this is Jon Favreau's goodbye. I think this is his chance to wash his hands of Star Wars entirely. I think he's just had enough with all the nonsense that's gone on behind the scenes, all the craziness. And he's just ready to wash his hands of Star Wars. And that this is his opportunity to do so. Because it seems like for every bit of goodwill that Jon Favreau gets, that Jon Favreau makes, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You know, he makes a step forward and creates The Mandalorian, and he does these great storylines. And then over here, you got people just messing up and taking away all that fan goodwill. And then on top of that, you got people coming on to his set on his show, telling him how to do his show, which is how we got The Mandalorian Season 3. Okay? And then on top of all that, you've got the whole Gina Carano stuff, because he went and he created Cara Dune specifically for Gina Carano. And to have her just fired, now I know that's all been settled and all that stuff, but still, I mean, the character that he created for Gina Carano, Cara Dune, was just unceremoniously let go, okay? And it just seems like he does this good thing, and then someone over here or someone at Lucasfilm will go and mess up and just, you know, take away all that goodwill that he builds. Okay? And it just seems like he doesn't have any support, and to be quite honest, I think he's just tired of fighting. Okay? And I think nothing has changed, and he's like, you know what am I doing here? So I firmly believe that this is Jon Favreau's goodbye to Star Wars. I firmly believe that. Okay? But this here is a trailer for the movie The Mandalorian and Grogu. It is supposed to be coming out in theaters. Let's take a look at it, and I'll give you some of my own thoughts and opinions on it as we watch it. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is we got the Razor Crest. Okay? That's the first thing that we have here is the Razor Crest. Now, the old one was completely destroyed in Season 2 of The Mandalorian. He then got a Naboo starfighter. Now, if you look at this Razor Crest looks to be painted in the silver and yellow of that Naboo starfighter. So, it is kind of a throwback to Season 2, but it's also moving forward with a new Razor Crest. Okay? Maybe the old one got, too short on him. Now I'm speaking about the starfighter, okay? Maybe the Naboo starfighter just got too small for him, and so he went out and got a Razor Crest. But either way, the Mandalorian is back in a Razor Crest, and I have no problem with that. Because really, I always thought that the Naboo starfighter he got in Season 2, the Naboo starfighter that he got in Season 3, was just a temporary. That he was going to eventually get back to Razor Crest. There we see the Mandalorian, Din Djarin, and Grogu. It seems like that he's taken up his position as adopted father very well, training Grogu in the ways of war and the Mandalorian. And there we see the Empire. Now, based on this image right here, these look like to be the Imperial soldiers from the original trilogy, okay? These do not look to be First Order Imperial soldiers. But I could be wrong on that. Here we have Sigourney Weaver. She's supposed to be playing some type of contact within the New Republic. So, it's good to see her. She's an icon in science fiction with her Aliens movies. So, good shot of her right there. Yeah, teaching Grogu not to steal. Now, one of the things I did notice, and I'm going to go back a little bit, is I think we're going to see a lot more action with Grogu in this one than we have on The Mandalorian. See, right here we got Grogu swimming. Now that right there harkens back to Rebels, because that looks to be Jeb. Or Zeb, I apologize. Zeb from Rebels, okay? And I'm trying to get a good picture of him, and I can't really get one. But that looks to be Zeb from Rebels. So they're not only linking back to the other episodes of The Mandalorian, but they're also linking back further to other Star Wars series, okay? Now, what you saw there was also another connection to another Star Wars movie called Rogue One. That was a U-Wing right there. I don't know who's flying it, but looks good. Good to see a U-Wing back in, because we've not seen the U-Wing since Rogue One. Now, that's supposed to be Rada the Hutt right there. Now, he ain't going to be like Jabba. Jabba was all fat and lazy. Rada is a gladiator, okay? He's a fighter, okay? He knows how to fight and punch and, take on the bad guys. So it's interesting to see what part he's going to play in all this. And there we see the Mandalorian take on a AT-AT. So that was the trailer for The Mandalorian and Grogu. It comes out next year, 2026, in May. Look, I've got a few issues from it. First off, how are you going to take 13 episodes of what was supposed to be season 4 and condense that down into a 2-hour movie? I'm not saying it can't happen, but how are you going to do it? Really? I mean, really, how are you going to do that? Alright? I think that a lot of stuff that would have been in season 4 of The Mandalorian is probably going to get tossed. That's just a given. Okay? It was nice seeing Sigourney Weaver. I'm not going to lie. It was really good seeing her. Okay? She had a great cameo in this, and she's going to be a integral part of the story from what I understand of the movie and stuff that comes out. My main 2 issues are this. First off, I firmly believe that this is Jon Favreau's swan song. I believe that he's just had enough of Star Wars. He's had enough of Lucasfilm. He's tired of fighting a losing battle, because it seems like he takes 1 step forward and they take 2 steps back. He's just tired of fighting a losing battle. Whether you're talking about that, whether you're talking about people coming onto his show and telling him how to do his show, whether you're talking about the Gina Carano stuff, I think he's had enough. I think he's literally had enough. And that this is his way of saying goodbye. Okay? So I expect some big things out of this. And I'm hopeful, I'm very hopeful, that they just leave him alone and let him say goodbye the best way he can. Okay? That they don't try to put any of their nonsense in this. Okay? The other thing is really, what are you going to cut out that would have been season 4 of The Mandalorian? What are you going to cut out so that way you can have a 2-hour movie that's supposed to replace season 4? Okay? Because I'm pretty sure there's going to be some major storylines that were cut out just so they can have a Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Okay? Because technically this was meant to be season 4 of The Mandalorian. And then they decided they wanted to come back to theaters with a movie, and what better way to do it than The Mandalorian and Grogu? And I also think behind the scenes that Jon Favreau was looking for a way out, and this was it. That this was his goodbye song, his swan song to Star Wars. Because I think he's had enough. He's tired of fighting a losing battle. Okay? And so what was cut out? That's another concern I really have. What all was cut out to make this 2-hour movie? Look, the trailer looks great. It's good seeing the Mandalorian in a Razor Crest again. Sigourney Weaver looked awesome. It was cool seeing the U-Wing from Rogue One. You know, it was cool seeing Zeb from Star Wars Rebels. I'm just going to be honest with you. I just got a bad feeling about this.
Now, moving on from the world of TV and movies, let's look at what happened this week in the world of video games.
So, this past summer, we got a very interesting game trailer from a studio that we know well. Insomniac Games has done a great job with the Marvel property. All you got to do is look towards the Spider-Man games, Miles Morales, Spider-Man 2, to see that they've done a good job with Marvel properties. Okay? Well, now they're going into a more darker version of that. And what I'm specifically talking about is the long-rumored game coming from Insomniac Games titled Marvel the Wolverine. Understand something. These are two completely different heroes. Okay? On one hand, you have Spider-Man. Okay? He lost his uncle, and he turned tragedy into triumph. Okay? And that tragedy was the loss of his uncle. So that way, it kind of fuels what he does. Okay? It fuels what he does by saving people's lives. Okay? The Wolverine is completely different. He's an anti-hero. And basically what an anti-hero is, okay? A anti-hero is a central character in a story who lacks traditional heroic qualities like courage, morality, or nobility, often instead being selfish, flawed, or morally ambiguous. While not necessarily a villain, an anti-hero operates in a messy gray area of right and wrong, driven by their own flawed motivations rather than a clear moral compass. That is the description of an anti-hero. Another famous anti-hero is the Punisher. You know, they do heroic things, they save people, they stop crime and that sort of thing, but they don't do it in a heroic sense, okay? They play by their own rules, and that describes the Wolverine to a T. He has always played by his own rules. He continues to play by his own rules. And he will beat the tar out of you, whether you're hero or villain. So let's take a look at this trailer. And I'll give you some of my thoughts and opinions on it. But this here is the upcoming trailer, the upcoming game, Marvel the Wolverine. Alright, this right here is Omega Red. It seems like anytime you see Wolverine, you see Omega Red and Sabretooth, okay? You know, the cartoons, the comics, Omega Red is one of the Wolverine's biggest pains in the butt, okay? Outside of Sabretooth, alright? So I'm very interested to see what he's doing in this game.
Been fighting longer than I can remember.
And already we're seeing that this is going to be very bloody, very brutal. This is not going to be like the Spider-Man games. Okay? In the Spider-Man games, you rarely saw blood, you rarely saw gore. I think this is, based on this trailer, that's going to be completely different.
I'd like to say I'm not a violent man. But trouble just has a way of finding me.
Alright, right there, we see him in the yellow costume. I don't really have a problem with this, okay? But I really hope that this is some type of skin, okay? That this is not going to be the official costume, because I don't want it to seem silly right off the bat. And that yellow costume has always seemed silly to me. Alright? Unless it's covered in blood and made more realistic. And I'm hoping they do go that route.
But I'd be lying. Doesn't matter where I go.
And there we're getting some gameplay from the PS5. And it's like I thought. It's completely bloody. You know, blood and guts. This is not going to be Spider-Man. This is going to be the Wolverine. Filled with anger and blood and guts and all that.
How far I run. Death's always waiting. Just not for me.
Right there we see Mystique. Alright, and Mystique is one of those classic X-Men villains. And it kind of raises the question, if she's in this, could we be seeing X-Men heroes as well? Alright. Because if she's in this, that kind of opens the door for other X-Men heroes to kind of make their own little cameo. Alright. But I do hope that this does focus on Wolverine before the X-Men. And not him at the end joining the X-Men. Okay? I want this to focus on Wolverine before he became a member of the X-Men. Not as he's joining up. Okay? And I am curious who they're going to get to voice. If they're going to be in it. You know, Cyclops. Jean Grey. You know, I'm seeing a lot of robotic soldiers. Are those AIM? Is that Hydra? Is that SHIELD? I'm curious what all we're going to see in this game. Because this trailer does have me kind of curious of what's coming next. Okay?
Because I ain't no hero. I'm Wolverine.
And right there, we see the biggest villain in Marvel Comics. One of the biggest villains. A Sentinel. The machine designed to hunt down mutants. I don't know what else to say except that. I mean, even if you're not an X-Men fan, you've heard of the Sentinels. Okay? You've heard how they hunt down humans. And you've probably seen movies where in the future they hunt down normal people who could become mutants. Okay? So seeing him in this trailer, yeah, I'm totally down with it. And there you have Fall 2026. That is the release date for the Wolverine, Marvel the Wolverine. So let me say this. I absolutely love this trailer. I love the game so far from what I've seen of it. I love the fact that it's coming from Insomniac. They know how to do superhero games. They've proven that with the Spider-Man games. Okay? My only concern is, are they going to try and take the game titled The Wolverine away from the Wolverine by having too many cameos? Like Mystique. We saw Mystique in there. We saw the Sentinel, which kind of alludes to the X-Men. And what about some of the other villains from Wolverine's history? What about some of the other heroes? Are we going to see Gambit? Are we going to see X-23? Or are there going to be allusions to X-23? What about Lady Viper? You know, what about the Serpent Society? I'm not a hardcore Wolverine fan, but those are the names that instantly come to mind. Okay, are we going to see other Marvel heroes in this, like Captain America? You know, the Wolverine and Captain America have a little bit of a history. Are we going to see, and which version of Captain America? Okay, that's a question right there. If we are going to see Captain America in this, which version? Are we going to see Steve Rogers, or are we going to see Sam Wilson. Is that who we're going to see in this game if Captain America is going to be in it? Because Captain America has a connection to Steve Rogers. Okay, because Wolverine and Steve Rogers served together in one of the wars, okay? But he doesn't really have a connection to Sam Wilson, who became Steve Rogers' replacement. So which version are we going to see? Are we going to see the soldier, Steve Rogers, or are we going to see the hero, Sam Wilson? Alright. This trailer is very interesting to me. I liked what I saw. It really whets my appetite, okay? And I can't wait to see more of it. And we'll probably see more of it before it comes out in fall 2026. But I liked what I saw, and I can't wait to see more.
Let's continue on with our gaming news segment.
So now I want to end this review of the summer of 2025 on something that happened in the gaming news segment, okay? So, as many of y'all know, last year I basically said that the PS4 was probably going to end this year. And I was pleasantly surprised that it did not happen, okay? That there is still a large PlayStation 4 fan base, that there are still people playing the PlayStation 4, especially now that the PlayStation 5 has increased in price, okay? But now, I think we're coming to the end of the road. I think now we're finally coming to the end of the road. Alright. So, this article comes from Game Rant, and it's been on several other sites as well. Starting in 2026, the PS4 will begin losing some services. Okay. And already it says PS4 games are reportedly losing access to several key services in 2026. The purported move would mark a major acceleration of Sony's efforts to drop its PS4 support. And it says here that November 15th will mark the 12th anniversary of Sony's console. And it's still receiving updates. The trend will continue in 2026, with Sony borrowing new PS4 games from integrating certain legacy PSN features. The list of functionalities affected by the proposed move comprise 6 services: Active Feed Web API, Shared Media, Title Small Storage, Title User Storage, Word Filters, and Users and Profiles. Existing PS4 games utilizing these services will purportedly retain access to them. So, starting next year, Sony is going to begin removing certain services from the PlayStation 4. Okay. I think that this really does signal the beginning of the end for the PlayStation 4. And it's kind of bittersweet. Because the PlayStation 4 was a good console. You know, I currently play a PlayStation 4. And I play Fortnite on it, and I play several other games on it. And I've had my PlayStation 4 for about 2 to 3 years. And people are telling me, oh, you should upgrade to the PS5. Problem with that is, I don't feel like spending $500-$600 on a PS5. I got my PlayStation 4 for like $400. Brand new. So why should I upgrade to a PS5 yet? I mean, seriously, why? Still, I was planning on upgrading sometime soon. But then some news came out that gives me pause. And it's this right here. PlayStation 6 to release in 2027, it's claimed. Alright. So, the PlayStation 5 releases 2 years ago. And now already they're talking about PlayStation 6. Now, there's nothing concrete on this. And we go down here, it says, after a recent video featuring PlayStation's Mark Cerny was posted discussing the future of technology between the two parties, questions began to mount about when the next PlayStation console would be released. On this discussion, NeoGaf, a user, mentioned 2027 being on the table for the new system. That led Kepler L2, who had been accurate with hardware information in the past, to chime in. Not just on the table, they said. It's the plan unless unexpected delays happen. So right now, the plan is to drop the next PlayStation console, a PlayStation 6 in 2027. Alright. And there's nothing about it playing old PlayStation games, old PS6 games, old PS5 games. There's nothing on the table about it doing that. And like I said before, this is still just a rumor, okay? But it does give me pause to why I should upgrade from a PS4 to a PS5 when the PS6 is only a year and a half away. And why should I upgrade for something that costs around $600 when I can go out, I can go to freaking Amazon. This right here is the Amazon page, okay? And I put in gaming laptop. Now, laptops are always going to be more expensive than desktops because they're smaller, they have the screen, and you really can't upgrade laptops very well, okay? So they're always going to be more expensive, okay? So scrolling down here, you know, look at these prices. All right. We've got one for $600. One for $700. This one's almost $1,500. This one's $500. Let's just say $550 with tax. This one is okay. It's not really a good one, but you know what? I'll even do one better. So let's change Windows 11 Home. Let's say up to, I'll give it $550. That's the price of a PlayStation 5. Let's see what we get. Right here. 1 terabyte, 20 gigabytes of RAM, Windows 11 Home for $500. Here's another one for $400. $600. $600. Gaming laptops. Now let's check out PCs, okay? So I'm going to put down gaming desktop under five. You know what? Gaming desktop. And what we'll do is we will go back to $550. So let's see what we get here. Right here. $449 with 16 gigs of RAM. $406. 16 gigs of RAM. 3.5 gigahertz. 16 gigs of RAM. 16 gigs of RAM. Look at this. You can literally buy a desktop computer that actually does more than a freaking PlayStation 5 right now. But you know what? I'll even do one. I do another one because there's these things called mini PCs. So let's put mini gaming desktop. Let's see how much a mini, and it's about the size of, say, a cell phone, but it has all the functionality of a desktop. Okay. Let's see here. All right, that one I'm not going to go with. Look at this. 32 gigabyte RAM, 1 terabyte, Ryzen 7. Right here. Here's another one. Ryzen 7, 32 gigabytes. Well, okay, processor speed not that good. Okay. Here's one that's 5.2 gigahertz. A Ryzen 9. For almost the same price as a PlayStation 5. I mean, seriously, why would I upgrade to a PlayStation 5 now? And just so you don't think I'm lying to you, just so you think I'm not exaggerating things, I'm going to get a PlayStation 5 console from Amazon. Okay, so let's see how much. See, look, right here. This version, PlayStation 5, $700. Here's the PlayStation 5 Slim which I don't think has. Yeah, I don't think it has a disc with it, for $550. Why? Why would I get a console really a console? All console does is play games and go on the internet. That's it. With a gaming desktop, I can play games. I can go on the internet. I can actually do other stuff than just trolling the internet. Whereas with a PlayStation 5, I stream, I play games, and stream movies. That's basically it. So why would I spend that much money for that when I can go over here and buy a gaming desktop that's honestly better and faster for $200 cheaper? Why would I do that? And on top of all that, we're getting these rumors out now that the PlayStation 6 is coming out in 2027. So why would I get it now? What, because of Grand Theft Auto 6? Well, that's going to be over on Xbox as well. And that's another thing. Where is that killer app for the PlayStation 5? I've not seen it yet. Yeah, are there games I want to play on the PlayStation 5? Absolutely. But not enough to make me spend $700 on console. Look, I'm going to ride out the PlayStation 4 until they eventually shut down the servers for it. Okay, I'm just going to be honest. Because I'm not willing to spend $700 on a PlayStation 5. I'm not willing to do it. And until they drop the price, I don't think a whole lot of people are going to do it either. And the worst case scenario is that if they don't start dropping this price down soon, and I don't care what reason they give for the increase in price, if they don't start dropping this price down soon, people are going to start going to Xbox and to desktop PCs. Simple as that. One of the driving forces behind the consoles was the fact that you could still play games, okay, but not have to pay the price of a desktop PC. Now Sony and really Xbox too are both saying, well, that ain't true anymore. And you really think people are going to sit there and pay $700 for a console when they can go over here and get a gaming PC for about $200 cheaper and maybe wait a year for the games to come out on PC, which has been happening here lately? No. I'm going to ride, I know that they're losing features next year on the PlayStation 4. I understand that. And I'm going to ride it out till the end. Because a console should not cost $700. And when they finally do drop the price of the console, absolutely I will get it. When they drop it down to like $300, $400, absolutely I will try and get it. Okay? Hopefully they'll do it this Christmas if they're smart. But as of right now, the price and the fact that their next console is reportedly coming out in 2027 is really giving me pause to switch over to the PlayStation 4. But at the end of the day, the PlayStation 4 is losing features, and I think it's only the beginning of the end for the PlayStation 4, which is kind of sad. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was your geek news for the summer of 2025. Let me just say that this past summer was very interesting. Whether you're talking about the Knight Rider reboot, whether you're talking about the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, or whether you're talking about the end of the PS4, really it was an interesting summer. But it was also kind of quiet. No huge announcements. And it almost feels like the calm before the storm. But look, I hope you guys enjoyed this Geek Report. Check out my other videos over on YouTube and Rumble. The addresses will be at the end of this video. I will see you guys in the next video and in the next stream. Laters.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching this episode of the Geek Report. I hope you enjoyed it. If you got a moment, please check out my other video sites as well as my social media and give them a like and follow. I will see you all in the next video and the next stream. Laters!